Arch Advocate Podcast. Merry Christmas, everybody. December 21st, last show of the year. That's right, old Petey's going to be taking a few days off. You got Christmas Eve on Monday, you got Christmas on Tuesday. And then, for everybody else, for us normal people, Kwanzaa, of course, is on Wednesday. Happy Kwanzaa, everybody. Boy, what a BS holiday that is. Like, hey, everybody. I'm so old that I remember when there was no such thing as Kwanzaa. That's how old I am, right? Nobody's alive that remembers when there was no such thing as Christmas. Right? People and their ability to just make stuff up. So what are we going to be talking about today? Are we going to be talking about General Mad Dog Mattis resigning because President Trump pulled everybody out of Syria against the advice of one James Mattis? Excuse me, sir. Do you have time to hear about our Lord and Savior, James Mattis? Did you guys ever see that meme? A couple of Marines standing there. So James Mattis resigns. Donald Trump capitulates to the Democrats, and that's a problem. There's a whole bunch of things in the news right now that we could be talking about. Guess what? We're not going to be talking about any one of those. Not today. Not today. I'm tired of it. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted from looking at it. Aren't you? You were just looking at it just like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to go put my feet up and watch Gilligan's Island. Maybe he gets off the island this week. Who knows? I can't look at it. It's too much. And it's coming up on the new year. Like we've got some things to look at. We've got some things to do together. And I want to say, first of all, like it's been a wonderful 12 months with you guys. And I'm very much looking forward to the start of the new year with you guys. Come January 2nd, I think that's when I'm going to do my first podcast of the year. But I'm looking forward to it because we've come together. Most of us came together because of cryptocurrencies, right? Formed a little community. And then just the constant bombardment of nonsense and tomfoolery. I'm trying to think of a way to not cuss, but the effery that was going on in the cryptocurrencies market. Again, listen, I'm not going to talk about it, right? I'm not going to go off on a cryptocurrency tangent. But you know what happened. We all do. We all came through this together, right? What I want to talk today about is the attitude for the new year. Who are we going to be in 2019? And also, who are we going to be together, right? There is a very real flaw in the human condition amongst many, many other flaws that I suffer from, that you suffer from, everybody, right? It's a thing that requires discipline, and it's the difference of thinking in terms of abundance and thinking in terms of scarcity, right? Scarcity versus abundance. Now, most people, over 97% of everybody thinks in terms of scarcity. It's a default position. And the people who don't, or claim that they don't, they tend to write books about how to avoid thinking in terms of scarcity. That's like one of the biggest problems with people. One of the biggest problems, I would say, and others would say, there's even people, with fancy titles like knight and count and whatever. Like there's people. There's philosophers, there's rich people, there's religious people, there's all kinds of different people that would say the number one thing that you need, if you're going to be financially prosperous, if you're going to be prosperous in your family life, if you're going to raise good kids versus crappy ones, if you're going to stay married in a loving relationship versus get a divorce, that then, like that sort of thing, like success, like all around success, not just money, but the number one tool that you need to have in your toolbox, nay, the sword that you need to have at your side at all times, the number one weapon that you need to get through this life is gratefulness, right? But I would say, coming in at in third or fourth place is you have to understand that your brain will naturally default to thinking in terms of scarcity rather than thinking in terms of abundance. And that is a futile cause if you don't have gratefulness. You might as well pack it, you might as well not even address you know what I mean? Like, you might as well not even meditate for a second on the fact that sometimes you think in terms of scarcity and other times you think in terms of abundance. Like, don't even think about it if you're not already aware of, like, you have to practice gratefulness. You have to practice gratefulness. Right? You have to work out. You have to. Now, you might be sitting there and be like, oh, yeah, but I'm 18, man. I can eat 2 carne asada burritos in a row and have it not affect me. It's like, yeah, you can do that right now. Not for very much longer. You have to practice health. Right? I smoke cigarettes. I have to practice health. Or else. Bad stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys have noticed from the pictures that I put up on Facebook and whatnot, in these videos, Patey's put on a little weight over the last 12 months. That's unacceptable. I have to practice health. You have to practice gratefulness. And if you don't, there are consequences. If I do not change my ways and quit smoking and get my lazy fat ass into the gym, there will be consequences. Now, thinking in terms of scarcity is to focus on the consequences. I don't want that. It's like, no. Like, I want to focus on the fact that, like, when you're healthy, your brain functions better, your energy's higher. You know what I mean? You're more apt to make better decisions. That whole thing, that's abundance. Scarcity is like being motivated out of fear. Abundance is being, motivated by the fact that there's so much in it for you. Right? Scarcity versus abundance. This is what I want to meditate on this show going into the new year, since I won't be talking to you on the podcast or the YouTube show for another 11 days. And Merry Christmas to all of you. Happy Chanukah to some of you. And Merry Kwanzaa or whatever to, I don't know, one of you? Who knows? Scarcity versus abundance. I'll give you a good example. All right. I have a learning process that like most men is very hands-on, right? I can sit there and I can learn what the book says on how to do it. I can sit there in a math class and I can learn, like, practically how to work a problem. But I can't learn that way alone, right? I have to have my hands in it. I have to use it, right? And because of the way that I learn, like, if there's something that I'm very uncomfortable with, it takes me longer to learn it. That's true for most people. Like, that's not some profound thing. Like, if you're sitting there going like, oh God, me too. It's like, no, that's pretty much everybody. If you like something, if you're interested in something, it's easier, for you to learn it, like, and learn. But one thing that, like, scares me, one thing that truly intimidates me, makes me feel weak, is technology. I don't like it, right? Like this podcast, my YouTube show, there's a lot to know. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of things you got to do. You got to make thumbnails, and you have to learn what keywords to use so that when people search it, hopefully yours pops up, and then hopefully they click on it, and all that sort of thing. Like, it's difficult to learn. And for some people, it's very easy because they're interested in that. And they, for some reason, it's like they know where to look to gain the knowledge that they're looking to acquire For me, it just seems to be a bit more difficult, right? It's been a year on YouTube, and just let me give you this example. This is the difference between, in terms of scarcity versus abundance. I had somebody write me, and they're like, oh, you only have, 250, subscribers on your YouTube show. That's true. That's true. Yes, I would love it if I had 100,000. I would love that. And it's been a year, and I feel like I should probably have more than 259 or whatever it is that I have. I should probably have more than that. But when people because I'll post my videos up on Reddit, some Reddit pages that have to do with whatever the subject is. And sometimes people will write me like, "Oh, you're stupid. You only have 250." It's like, dude, this time last year, I had zero. I had 0 subscribers, right? And now I have a small church, right? I have a comedy club full of people. You know what I mean? I have a lot of people. That's 260 people that I didn't have last year at this time. That's abundance. And as for the rest of it, it's like people who think like that, when people write in and they try to use that as an insult, it's like, okay, well, number one, I can already tell everything I need to know about you, that you think in terms of scarcity, that you would think that it would matter to me. It's like, dude, everybody at some point or another on you, like PewDiePie, Joe Rogan, Adam Carolla, whoever, everyone at some point or another had exactly as many subscribers as I do, even if it was only for 10 minutes. And as far as the rest of it goes, I will learn. The reason I bring that particular story up is because Michael Whitlock had written me, and he says, listen, you know what, Michael, I'm sorry if I'm putting this out a little bit, putting your business out in the street, but I think I'll be able to tie this up here. He says, hey, I figured I'd speak my piece after catching up a little bit. Most of my podcast time is being given to Jordan B. Peterson's discussion on morality and the Bible, etc. Good choice. I do hope that he can keep his corruption to a minimum, but it's very apparent he holds some of the biases and pompous attitudes that come with elite academia. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. My other big chunk is given to crypto news. I'm sure my lack of persistence isn't terrible, but I know even if I don't hear every show, even if we don't always see eye to eye, I'm rooting for you, Pete. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for that. You have helped me stay sane in these crazy markets. That's pretty much the nicest thing you could say. Thank you. He says, at one time, companies were supposed to pay me over $500,000. Laugh out loud. Yeah, we were all supposed to be living on an island literally made out of Lamborghinis. Of course, that didn't happen. So my psyche took a hit after an inevitable period of planning my health care, debt, business, family, fiscal tragedies. But I took your words to heart. And when you said to not lose your head, and although it does suck to not be vastly wealthy, I am in great health with a loving support system and very few real issues to bitch about. I will begin donating to you financially once my bed is made. But first I got to drop, a certain amount of money on a certain necessity and settle my debts through good old-fashioned overtime. Godspeed. I'll drop in from time to time and listen when I still can. Yeah, cool. Listen, it's a daily show. There's no way you're going to be able to listen to every single one of them, And, as far as, listen, I love where your heart's at, you want to send me money, great. But listen, just, and other podcasters say this, and it's a humbling thing when other people send you money. You know what I mean? It humbles you. Because it's like, man, that was their money, and then they gave it to me. But listen, dude, take care of yourself first. Don't, all of you listening, don't, you know what I mean? If you can't, if times are rough, and this is the roughest time of the year for the old pocketbook. This is the worst time of the year for, being tight on money. I don't want people to think oh, I need to send, if you can, great. If you can't, don't, please. You know. And anyways, I wrote him back, and he writes. I just wrote him. I was like, hey man, just relax this Christmas, man. Have it be merry. Just have a Merry Christmas, man. Be happy. Be happy. He says, I'll be working on it as a young unmarried man should, paying dues. But yes, Merry Christmas, dude. Also, what is a day in the life of the real Pete like in Albania? This is the part I wanted to get to. The part about like scarcity and abundance and like me and technology. Like, you want to know what my day is like? It goes like this. First, I get ready to do my podcast, right? I'll look over the news, see what's going on. I'll check in on the cryptocurrency markets to see if there's anything that I feel like deserves being talked about. And then I'll get ready. I'll listen to a podcast or two, and get ready. And then I'll just start free flowing, right? And then I transfer all the files onto my laptop, and I open up iMovie and I edit it. Right, so I chop off the fat off of both ends, and if there's any time like in the middle where I have to get up because somebody came knocking at my door or the baby starts crying or something like that, I'll cut that part out, and then I'll upload it. I'll transfer it to iMovie onto my computer, and that takes a little while, and then I'll upload it onto my podcast site, and then I'll upload the video onto YouTube. Now this is where it gets, sorry if that bored you to tears, but what happens next is the part that freaks me out. Then I start watching YouTube videos about how to be a better YouTuber. And I'll watch YouTube videos about how to be a better podcaster and how to get recognized, right? And there's all these different points of view and different schools of thought, and all I want to know is like, yes, but just what keywords, like what is the purpose of keywords? Are there too many keywords? Are there too few keywords? Can you just tell me, is there, you know what I mean? Like I'm looking for somebody to explain it to me in the way that I can understand it. And it's been a year, and I've picked some things up, right? I've learned like, okay, I need to get a green screen because on iMovie, you can put a green screen up and you can, put stuff in the background and all that. So like, okay, got it. I got that, right? But my thing is I need to get visibility. And I need to learn how to do that. And learning how to do that, it requires me to come into an understanding of technological things. And how what it is that the algorithm, this mysterious beast called the algorithm, what is it looking for? And that stuff is very intimidating to me. It's like when you're getting into a fist fight that you know that you're gonna lose. It's intimidating. Like, oh, you know what I mean? You get that sick feeling in your gut, like, oh. And then, and then it's diaper changing and babies crying and stressing out about like, I got to figure out how to, with my new son being born, I have to go down to the embassy and I have to fill out his paperwork so that I can get him his U.S. citizenship. And it cost $100. And that represents a great deal of money to me. And thank God, a couple of you guys kicked in exactly that much this Christmas, so it enabled me to do some Christmassy things, and it's going to enable me to pay for that stuff. And so in all that mix, it's like there's it gets to be a little bit overwhelming, and then I get overwhelmed and I get on edge and I get a little cranky, right? And then I have to slow down and remember, like, oh no, everything's fine. The Lord is with me. I have everything that I need. I have everything that I need. I have a podcast, be it small. I have a YouTube show, be it small, but I have those things. These are tools that I have. These are for me, right? I have the ability to write. I have a story to tell. I have perspectives to share. You know what I mean? I have things that I think about where it's like I look at them and it's like, how come nobody's ever explained it this way? Like, I can see it clearly. How is it that there's not a single book about this particular thing when I can see it so clear? And so I need to write those things. And that's, that will be my avenue to increased income because I have that tool. It's in my toolbox, and I just need to, I need to learn how to do these other things. And thank God, here comes, I need to learn how to get, once I'm done writing something, I need to get it out, get it onto Amazon or Kindle or whatever, all that other stuff. And guess what? God knew that, and so he sent me Todd Milligan, because Todd Milligan has already been on that path for quite a while. Right? And he's already done, certain things where it's like he when it comes to the book publishing stuff, like he already knows that. Right? And then there's other you guys, like when it was the Crypto Currently show, there was there was Raleigh Felton, and he came along and he's like, here, let me put together some thumbnails for you. Right? I miss Raleigh. And then there's whatever, like God will always provide a way if you just slow down and believe, right? Think in terms of abundance, like the Lord will always provide for you. And it's like, it's tough to get into because I tell you that story, I think I said this once before. Before I went walking on the Pacific Crest Trail, I was reading books about the Pacific Crest Trail, and there's this one naturalist guy, famous hiker, nature guy, and he wrote this book, and and it wasn't like a full-on book. It was more like a very large pamphlet, what to expect and whatever. And one of the observations that he had made was when people die in the wilderness, when people get lost. And they find their way off of the trail, and they get lost, and then it gets dark, and they get scared, and then they get exposed to the cold and the dark and what are called the elements, and they die. And he says, listen, almost every single one of these cases where people die, with the exception of, because they came across the mama bear with some cubs, and then they got eaten. With the exception of stuff like that, or because they slipped, fell off a cliff, smacked their head on a rock. With the exception of those ones, when they just go out there and they go look for the lost hiker, and they find that hiker just sitting there with his backpack on, and he's just laying on the ground. He's just dead, and he's not been eaten or anything like that by a bear. They say the number one reason is they die of exposure. They just give up. And he said that the number one reason that happens is because it's due to hunger. They're out there and they're scared. Right? Number one, and that's a very scary. Listen, you don't know what dark is until you've been in a forest with no skylight. You know what I mean? There's cloud cover, and so there's no moon, there's no starlight coming through, and there's just no light. You don't know dark until you've been in a forest where the forest itself seems to be absorbing light as well and stealing it from you. It's freaky. I can tell you, I remember one time I was in this forest, and I had my flashlight out, and I remember thinking that it appeared that the forest itself was stealing the light from my flashlight. You know what I mean? Like I was flashing the light, ahead of me, and it just looked like the forest was overcoming the light, like the darkness was overcoming the light. It was spooky, and that can The thing about that is when you're hungry, your blood sugar starts turning, right? If you haven't eaten and you've been hiking all day, right? You've been burning through calories. You've just burned through 2,500 calories, and you don't have any food, and you don't have clean water because you drank it all, right? You ate your last Cliff Bar 8 hours ago. Listen, your blood sugar starts changing. Changes very rapidly. And when your blood sugar changes, like your mind starts working differently. By differently, I mean against you. Fear takes on a whole new dimension, right? There's normal fear, and then there's, I haven't eaten in 8 hours and I can't think straight, fear. And you couple that with cold, right? Oh, I'm cold, it's dark, I can't see anything. Holy crap, was that a bear or a wolf that I just heard? You know what I mean? Like that stuff compiles very quickly. And what this guy was saying is like, look, the answer to almost all of that stuff is like you have to get some food in your belly. You have to get some protein into your belly because your brain is starving and it can't think straight. But because, either people don't know what they can eat in the woods or they're just unwilling to. Because there's food everywhere in a forest. It's everywhere. If you guys probably used to watch Bear Grylls, like they used to teach us this stuff in the Marine Corps, but it's like look, if it comes down to it, if you're moving through the forest or through the desert or whatever, like if you're burning through calories and you don't have any food, like you have to eat. You must drink water no matter what. You know what I mean? You have to have food and you have to have water. And if you really need food, if you don't have an animal that you can kill, right? If there's no flora that you can recognize and say, okay, yeah, that's safe to eat and that's not safe to eat, that sort of thing. If you don't have those, then you can turn over a rock. And there's going to be little critters underneath there, and they're full of protein, and you need to start eating, right? Probably get a little bit nauseous. You might even throw up, but as long as you're getting food in there, like you have to feed yourself, right? And that's the abundance. It's like, oh no, there's food everywhere. I'm safe. Like yes, like it's very dark and whatever, and the sun is down and I need to sleep. I need to figure out a way that I can keep relatively warm and get some sleep, and then I can fight again tomorrow. Right? But people don't do that. They panic. And then they seize up. They have a panic attack and they just lay there and die. That's what I'm saying. Like you can become overwhelmed by the circumstances. It's very easy. And the circumstances themselves are indeed as bad as they look. You know what I mean? You're looking around and you're like, I need to eat, and there's no food. It's like, yeah, it truly is that bad. But you just need to look a little bit closer. Look a little bit closer. There's actually food crawling around on the ground right now. And if you were just a little bit more informed, you would realize that there's like actual food that grows out of the ground and you can pick it and eat it and it's completely safe. And as a matter of fact, it's a gift from God. It's food. Almost every form of grass is edible and good for you. There's over 2,000 different species of daisies, right? Or not, yeah, daisies. What are the little yellow flowers that grow that Roundup is always trying to kill? It's daisies, right? No, it's not. Gold. You guys know what I'm talking about. There's over 2,000 species of those, and did you know that number one, every single species of them is edible, and number two, that every single species of those is a complete food. It's daisies, right? Gosh darn it. But it's like a superfood. And Monsanto has been trying to figure out how to kill these things for like that's where the majority of Monsanto money goes to, is research on Roundup, on how to kill. Gosh darn it. It's not daisies, it's oh golly. You know what I'm talking about, the little yellow damn flowers that we're always trying to kill. It's like the most abundant food source on the planet. And it's like, not only is it safe to eat, it's actually super, super good for you. There's food everywhere. There's food everywhere. That's the difference between thinking, in terms of scarcity versus abundance. When you see it that way, it's like, oh, I'm fine. I'm going to be safe. Right? It's going to be very uncomfortable, but I'll make it. You know what I mean? And you want to know the dangers of thinking in terms of scarcity and not knowing your surroundings and not understanding no. The Lord has given you all things pertaining to life. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. You want to know what the danger of not doing that? Like, you go back because I'm a fan of Jordan Peterson as well. With his work anyways. I have some problems with the guy, but whatever. He talks a lot about Germany and the Soviet Union and the starvation of hundreds of millions of people, the deaths of hundreds of millions of people because of communism, which started off as socialism, and all that. And it's like, you look at the history there. You don't have to look very long before you start seeing in the annals of history that these people were because the government was in charge of producing food for everybody, which is a ridiculous proposal. It's a ridiculous proposal. You can never put bureaucrats in charge of food or anything, really. That these people were turning into cannibals. They were literally eating human flesh because they didn't have enough food. Do you understand that? How depraved you have to be to get to that level? That's where, that's the ultimate bad, result of not understanding the importance of thinking in terms of abundance. Is no, you don't have to eat your. Remember, they were talking. Was it Stolzenisten said they had to do public service announcements to tell people hey, dude, it's against the law and it's immoral to eat your children. Evidently, these people were slaughtering and eating their own children to stay alive. Right? It's dude, there's food everywhere. There's food everywhere. But because you're thinking in terms of scarcity, that it literally brought about the most evil scenario that I can think of. Scarcity versus abundance. And when you think in terms of abundance, you know what I mean? Then the little things don't matter. Yeah, man, I haven't figured out the tricks of YouTube. How to get more exposure on YouTube. How to get, I have a good audience on my podcast, but I would like to have a few thousand, right? I would like to have a bigger audience. How do I do that? Well, you have to get heard. You have to figure out the keywords and the tags and what it is that people are looking for. And maybe I need my artwork to be better, or maybe this, or maybe that. Guess what? I'm fine. I will learn all of those. I will learn all of those things. I will acquire that knowledge. And I'm not going to get beat up by the fact that when it comes to this sort of thing, it takes me a little longer. It takes me a while to understand it, because the thing is that I know for a fact, once I understand it, once I get it, that's going to be all she wrote. And it's the same thing with you. It's but once you understand it, then the war is over and you've won. Right? Just I talked to you guys about being a commodity trader. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but I failed math the entire time I was in school. I was horrible at math. And the reason why is because I didn't have any interest in it. I'd sit there in math class and they'd just be doing long division, and I'd just be oh boy, this is so, ugh, this is garbage. Why? This is so boring. Why would I try to figure out how many times that thing goes into that thing? I don't care. I don't care how many times that number goes into that number. If you tell me that if I solve that problem, that I'm going to get an A, that's the only thing that you're offering me as a carrot, is that you're going to give me a red A on my paper. I don't care. I don't care how many times that goes into that. I don't care what the radius of the circle is. I don't care. You have not properly incentivized why I should care about this. And so I failed miserably. In fact, I did so bad at math that I very nearly couldn't even get into the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps, right? Which, spoiler alert, Marines are not known for their unlocking of mathematical secrets. All right? Marines are not always known for their scholarly work. But what I'm getting at is, like, once it became something that I wanted, right? Once it became a puzzle that I did want to solve, turns out I was a mathematical phenom, right? And I could sit there and I could do very complicated calculus in my head, just like all of the rest of my fellow brokers, because that's like one of the things that you have to be able to do. But once it was something that was like, there was a benefit in it for me, there was something that I found enjoyable about it, it was like a game that I wanted to play every day. It was wonderful, right? And then I was one of the star brokers. It was me and Dave Cellini. Dave Cellini. Me and Dave Cellini. We were the star young brokers on the floor. I would say I was in the lead. I'm sure Dave would probably say the same thing. But I digress. Like, once I learned it, right? Once I figured out, like, oh, this is why this is important to me. Then boom, all of a sudden, you know, I mean, it took a lot of work, but you know what I mean? Scarcity versus abundance. I don't know how that tied in. But this year, like, let us be resolved. Right? Let's not think about, you know, the fact that we put some money into the cryptocurrency market and lost 90% of it. That's a lesson. It's an expensive lesson. But it reminds me of a story, I want to say it was at Hewlett Packard, that this guy that was like an accountant or something, he had screwed up the books and he lost, like, I don't know, it was like $50,000 or something like that. Because of this guy, because of this employee, the company lost like $50,000. And so, you know, the big boss brought him in and he was talking to him about it, and the guy says, okay, well, I mean, I guess this is where you fire me. And his boss looks at him and he says, are you kidding me? I just spent $50,000 on you. You're staying. You know what I mean? This was a very expensive lesson. I paid a lot of money for this lesson. You know? You think, and he's like, you think you're ever going to screw up like that again? I think not. I guarantee you, the fact that you just lost $50,000 of my dollars, I guarantee you, you're never making that mistake again. You're valuable to me. I know for a fact you're never going to screw that one up again. That's thinking in abundance. That's the thinking of abundance. Yeah, we lost a little dough over there. Hopefully, you know, I don't know what your situation is, and you know, maybe you pulled out of the crypto. Maybe your coins are still sitting there, and I think that would probably be the right move, particularly now since there's really no point in selling out. But abundance is thinking like, well, that was a very expensive lesson learned. Not everybody, you know what I mean? And see, and this is another thing. Like this is kind of proof, you know, of like the fact that there's so many people out there still thinking in those terms of scarcity. I look at my YouTube subscribers, it's 259 or 257 or something like that. I go on to Trayvon James. Remember from BitConnect? He's got over 100,000. Now, I could look at that and piss and moan and be like, the injustice. But I don't. Like, I think, like, if I had 100,000 subscribers on, right here, actually, let me pull this up. I don't want to misquote this. Let me see here. Trevon James. 120,000. 486 videos. Okay, he just posted a video 18 hours ago, 6,000 views. Posted a video yesterday, 12,000 views, right? And I think to myself, like, okay, if I had 12,000 views, I would be so happy. But then if I figured out, or if I came to learn that the 12,000 views that I got were all fans of Trevon James, they were all the kind of people that continue to listen to Trevon James, I would kill myself. I would jump off of a damn cliff. Because it's like, dude, there's 12,000 people watching you. There's 12,000 people who are still so stupid that they would buy what you're selling. No thank you. I will take my 257 subscribers and believe in my heart that these are smart people. Because you have 120,000 stupid people following you. You are literally Trevon James. You're actually that guy. You're the guy that it's a friggin' miracle that you're not in prison right now. And people are still listening to you. I feel like I'm on crazy pills. You know what I mean? Like what? I don't know what I'm seeing here. Here's Trevon James a week ago, 29,000 views. Dude, 29,000 views would change my life. But if I had 29,000 views and every one of them was the type of moron that would still listen to Trevon James, like I would be looking for some those cyanide pills that spies keep in their tooth in case they get caught. You know what I mean? Like what kind of world am I living? You know what I mean? It's a scarcity versus abundance. You know what I mean? Like I would rather confidently have 256 subscribers on YouTube. I would rather be confident in that. Knowing that, like, okay, with these 257 people, these are people, even though most of them I've never chatted with, so I really couldn't tell you what their level of sophistication is. Just as long as there's not a single one of them that's a fan of Trevon James and thinks that Trevon James is, like, legit. You know what I mean? It's just like, I've talked about that before, like that concept, like what if I had 70,000 people that listened to me? You know what I mean? Like I would have advertiser dollars coming in. I would have lots of books flying off the shelves. I would have, you know what I mean? Like the money would be good. But if those 70,000 people represented Joel Osteen's church, because I think that's what his capacity is, or maybe it's 20,000. Just for the sake of conversation, let's just call it 70,000. Let's say Joel Osteen's church seats 70,000 people, and clearly he packs that place every Sunday. That dude is balling out of control. He's got so much money that you know what I mean. Like that's. To have the ear of 70,000 people and have the respect of 70,000 people, it's like, yes, I want that. Like that would truly be a sign of like, yes, I've arrived. I am living the abundant life. But you know what? Like if I had to become what Joel Osteen is to get that 70,000 people, I would say, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, I don't want that. I don't want people listening to me if they see me as Trevon James, and I wouldn't want people listening to me talk about Jesus if they looked at me the same way that they look at Joel Osteen. You know what I mean? I'm grateful for what I have. I'm grateful for the tools that I have. I'm grateful that I have, a very good, and at the time that I purchased it 2 years ago, the most expensive laptop that money could buy. I have all the tools that I need. I have all the software that I need. And yes, it takes me longer to learn things, but I learn things. And once I have completed learning it, then I know it. Once I unlock it in my mind, which generally takes me longer than it takes some other people, but I'll get there. Let 2019 be the year of abundance thinking for all of us. The year that we practice gratefulness. We practice gratefulness. The discipline of gratefulness. Right? The prayer and the meditation and the study that goes into becoming good at gratefulness, because it changes things. It changes the way that you see things. It opens your eyes to the opportunities around. I was just talking with another. I'm not gonna put your business out there in the street, but I was talking to a guy that's had some complaints about the people that are around him at certain aspects of his life. But he was talking about, like, hey, I also had this side business where I made a bunch of money, and that was a real blessing. And it's like, that's what you need to focus on. That, like, dude, do you know how many people out there that have the same opportunity to do what you do what you did, but they'll never see it, and it's right in front of them. They'll never see it. They'll never look around and be like, oh, I can just do whatever I want. Hey, I'm good at this thing. I can go out there and I can pitch this thing to all kinds of people, and a certain amount of those people are going to buy it. And they will be better off having it, and I will be better off having sold it to them. Like Aaron Williamson, from Seattle, the former member of the Proud Boys, he comes on, and he's like, dude, I weld. I'm a metal fabricator, and I can make anything. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way. That's how you think. That's abundance. Dude, I can do whatever I want. Like, I'm an American. I live in America. You know what I mean? And if you're just, Like, even if you're, like, this is one thing that I try to explain to, because I do this little class on Saturday for these Albanian teenagers. And, like, one thing I'm trying to get them to understand is, like, dude, it doesn't matter who your government people are. You are free. It wouldn't matter if we were born into communist China. You must understand that God has granted you life and you are free. You have to understand that. You have to understand, like, there are two types of people. Right? There are two types of spirits that you can have. You can either have the spirit of a free man or the spirit of a slave. Which one are you? And most people, they never confront that. They never confront that question. So they live their lives in slavery. They're a slave. Oh, they hate their job. They live their whole life hating what they do. They never contribute. You know what I mean? They never sing their song. You know what I mean? They never create and push humanity forward as they were supposed to be, because they're just like, oh, I just, as long as I have my job, as long as, I got enough food, as long as whatever. It's like, dude, you're a slave. You're a slave. It's all right. It's just, think about it. Do you want to be a slave or do you want to be free? And free is hard, man. Free takes discipline. Freedom is responsibility. All right, so this year, let us be responsible to take in all the things that we're grateful for and meditate on those things so that our eyes can be open to the garden of possibilities that is available to us, so that we can see the food that surrounds us and that we can eat that food, right? Let 2019 be the year of gratefulness and abundance and a shunning of that wicked and dark forest of scarcity. That forest that sucks the light out and snatches it up away from you so that you can't see. Let 2019 be that year, and let's do it together. Together. Let's stay in communication on Telegram, on with the email that you can get on my website, archadvocate.com. Go on to if you haven't already, go on to that website, send me an email on the little thing on the bottom, the little email thing. Let's do it together. Together. We'll have this I think I joked about that before, like the world's first 100% interactive podcast. I'm serious about that. Let's do it together. That's it, man. Great year. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank all you guys and girls. Thanks for listening in. Thank you for every time that you wrote me and gave me an encouraging words, because believe me when I tell you, like there were a number of days in there where it's just like, you know what, screw this. I'm not podcasting anymore. And just then I would get a message from one of you guys, and it would give me the strength to keep going. For the financial support, and for the kind words, for the friendship, for all of those things. Thank you guys so much. And I'm looking forward to getting through 2019 together, and that we'll all end up on the other end of it better people, closer in community, closer to our families, better in health, better financially, closer to God. That's it for 2018, folks. Again, thank you so much, and I will see you in 2019. Merry Christmas, everybody.